Hello, today we're going to go over ocean plastic and the Pacific Garbage Patch lecture. As we probably already know, a lot of garbage from on land ends up in the oceans, both intentionally and unintentionally. Some of that stuff will biodegrade, let's say it's a paper napkin, but some of it, like plastic, will stay in the ecosystem for centuries, if not longer. So if you see this map here, and we're talking about one of these patches of garbage. Now what happens is you get these patches because ocean currents swirl in a certain pattern, and they create this concentration of floating trash, mainly plastic. And you can see it just gets more and more concentrated. The darker the color is the most concentrated parts. Okay. The Pacific Garbage Patch is located between California and Hawaii. This is a large region where ocean currents have concentrated plastic debris that has fallen into the ocean. There are a total of 5 of these current-formed patches in the world's oceans. So not just here in the Pacific, but there's other ones in other oceans. Now, the floating garbage in those patches only accounts for about 1% of all the plastics that are in the ocean. But this floating plastic only accounts for a small portion of the plastic in the ocean. An estimated 8 million tons of the plastic falls into the ocean every year. So where is the rest? So if it's not in these garbage patches, where else are we going to find it in the oceans? All right, what we have here is a picture of sediment, and the younger sediment is on the top, and then it gets older as you go down through the layers. And you can see some abnormalities within the sediment here, okay? Along the side, they've put the years, so what year each part of the sediment was formed. This sediment sample was taken off the coast of California. Years have been added to show the age of the sediment. The objects within the sediment are plastics of various size. So we see that stuff here and here, right? There. But we don't see it down here. Okay, there's none of it down over here. Plastic started becoming embedded in the seafloor as soon as we started using them on a large scale. So you don't see any plastics from before the use of plastics, and then around the mid-19th century, we start seeing a lot of plastics that have been caught and then buried in the sediment. We also see plastics that should be floating at the surface, but instead it has drifted down to the bottom of the ocean. And you can see in this picture, we've got a bunch of plastic bottles. Well, normally those plastic bottles would be floating. Even if they're submerged with water, they tend to float. But something happens over time, the longer that they float there. This happens over time as living organisms attach themselves to the plastic, slowly causing it to sink. So this might be barnacles, it might be seaweeds, it might be little crustaceans that are living inside the bottle, but eventually it's enough to make that bottle, that plastic, sink down to the bottom. Okay. With this image, we're on the beach somewhere, and you see all of this plastic and garbage washed up on the beach, okay? Very common sight. You can pretty much go anywhere in the world, any beach, and you will find garbage, unless it's being regularly picked up by people. Most of the new plastic that ends up in the ocean will be found along coastlines. So this is all the new stuff that ends up getting into the ocean. It tends to be concentrated around the coast. This plastic gets washed up on shore, washed out to sea, and repeats the cycle over and over. So washing to shore, washed out to sea, washing to shore, washed out to sea, back and forth, back and forth. The force and friction of washing up on a rocky beach and rubbing against the other debris causes the plastic to break into smaller and smaller pieces. So over time, these large pieces just get smaller and smaller and smaller. But they don't go away. They're just getting tinier. Microplastics, which you can see in this image right here, are pieces smaller than 5 millimeters in size. Microplastics can be found in every part of the oceans and within the bodies of all marine life. So we're finding microplastics at the bottom of the deepest trenches, and we're also finding them within the tissues of all the creatures that live in the oceans, which means we're also eating those creatures, and microplastics are getting inside of our bodies as well. Okay, I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.